Hi, this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today you'll learn how to craft and recraft your creative career over time, so you can maximize who you can become. And if you see anything I could have done better in this video, then I would highly appreciate if you tell me. Today's big ideas come from the great book, Maximize Your Potential by Jocelyn Glei. Maximize your potential, subtitle, grow your expertise, take bold risks and build an incredible career. Jocelyn Glei is the editor and the director at 99U, which has a mission to provide the missing curriculum of making ideas happen. She's also the editor of the 99 book series, which includes Manage Your Day-to-Day, Maximize Your Potential, and Make Your Mark. And they are going on and writing more books. Maximize Your Potential is a collection of essays from a bunch of different fascinating people. For example, Cal Newport is the author of So Good They Can't Ignore You and Deep Work. And it's all about helping us actualize our highest potential so we can go out and create an awesome life. So if you're into that, you'll dig the book. We'll start off with the first big idea, day one. This is from an essay from Joe Willink, who is an entrepreneur and author. And he tells us that technology companies often keep their beta label on for their software because after their official launch, because they want to signalize to the world that their product is not yet finished. They are still getting ready for the next batch of improvements. For example, Gmail, they would launch officially in 2004, but they wouldn't leave the beta officially before 2009, after millions of people were already using it. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of and CEO of Amazon.com, he has since 1997 concluded each annual letter with to his shareholders with the words, "It's still day one here at Amazon.com." And that means that they're never finished. They are always at day one, at improving their products and customer service a little bit more to give their customers a bit better experience. And as we go to actualize our potential, that's always true for us, because we don't true for us. So he says we need to go into permanent beta. Permanent beta. And that means that we acknowledge that yes, we have certain bugs and quirks, just like the software of software in technology companies. There will always be these small addictions that will try to get the better of us, and the small things we aren't quite proud of. But when we're in permanent beta, we acknowledge that, and we are simply testing what works and what doesn't. This Steve Chandler talks about this in his book Crazy Good, where he says that experiments never fail, because when we experiment, we're just as eager to find out what doesn't work as what does. So dear actualizer, put yourself into permanent beta and recognize that we all have bugs and quirks, these small addictions and things we aren't quite proud of. But our goal should be to always say it's day one. This is the day that really matters, where I can step up to my highest potential and make an empowered response in this specific situation. Our next big idea is fear. And this one comes from Michael Schwalbe, who is a PhD candidate at psychology at Stanford University. And he has also worked in the finance industry for over a decade. So he tells us a story. In 1976, after rehearsing in front of friends for weeks, a 22-year-old Jerry Seinfeld steps on the stage at a comedy club to give his first public performance as a comedian stand-up. And he takes the microphone, looks out at the audience, and then he freezes. When he finally finds his voice again, he can only remember the topics, so he rattles them off without stopping. The cars, the beach, and before he quickly runs off stage. and the entire performance takes about 90 seconds. And he recounted in a later time that this time he couldn't speak. He was just so paralyzed with fear. And to continue the story, when he had recovered for a couple of months after that incident, he would go on to stay up on the stage again at the CD bar in Times Square, where he would step on the stage, and again he would become real nervous and make a lot of mistakes, but he barreled through and finished his routine. In 1989, 13 years later, after his first performance, and after a lot of uncomfortable touring and performances, he finally aired the pilot of Seinfeld, which would go on to earn $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion. That's just an astonishing amount, and that from reruns alone. And it would become one of America's all-time favorite sitcoms. So think about that for a second. He would go on from being paralyzed by fear in his first performance, and 13 years later, earning $2.7 billion in revenues from reruns alone. That's just incredible. I can't, yeah. And, but none of that would have happened if he hadn't been courageous enough to step on the stage again a few months later after his first try, when he got paralyzed. And Russ Harris talks about the word courage in his book, The Confidence Gap. And he says that courage comes from the Latin word cor, which means heart. And therefore, courage means we do what's in our hearts, what's really important to us. And therefore, dear actualizer, what is the most common emotion that we feel when we act courageously, doing brave things? Fear. So Ross says that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what really matters despite our fears. We all feel fear, but the difference between the successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do what needs to get done, no matter what they feel. So think about that. What are you afraid to do right now? And is that an important thing for you to do, to accomplish what you want to accomplish? Then just do it over and over again, like Seinfeld did, and get desensitized against your fear. I know it's hard, but you just have to continue. The third big idea is agency. And this one comes from John Cadell, who curates the Mistake Bank, which collects a bunch of stories of business mistakes and failures. So he is all into risk. He knows a lot about it. And he tells us this story about the future Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning, who found himself without a team after playing for 14 seasons at the same team. So he auditioned to several top teams before he finally wrote a contract for a 3-year contract with the Denver Broncos it was. And he said about this, that this was a really hard decision, because at one stage he wanted to go to all of those teams. But he just had to do like he had done later in his life. He just had to make a decision and go out to work and make it the right decision without looking back. And that's agency. That's, as John calls it, the ability to take action which influences your destiny. And Peyton wouldn't just worry about whether he made the right decision. No, he would go out and work as hard as he possibly could to make it the right decision. So what is this for you right now? What decision is it that you have made, you need to make, or you are just made right now? In your career, in your business, in your friendships, and for where you are going to live. And are you worrying about whether that is the right decision or not? Well, then do as Peyton Manning. Simply go to work and make it the right decision. Do whatever you need to do to make your future you want a reality, without worrying about whether it was the right choice or not. Our fourth big idea is bets. This comes from the author Frans Johansson. And he says that when these people in history who has been truly innovative and done extraordinary work and made masterpieces, the common factor is that they have all been extraordinarily productive, stunningly productive, I think he says. And he uses the example of Picasso. During his lifetime, Picasso would produce between 50 to 100,000 pieces of art. Now, he couldn't simply decide which of those pieces would be successful and not, which would become to be masterpieces and which ones would suck. Because there were a lot of his paintings that just simply gathered dust in some basement. For a good reason, they sucked. But Picasso was in essence placing a lot of bets that a percentage of his work would be really good. Really fantastically good. And therefore, because of his insane output of 50 to 100,000 pieces of art, he increased the chances and he got an advantage over people who didn't produce that much. So the moral here is, if you want to create something truly extraordinary and lasting, you have to place a lot of bets. Create a ton of work and learn from each mistake you make along the way. Permanent beta style. Our next big idea is, and last one, is better you. Jocelyn adds a chapter in the end of each book in the 99U series where we really get a kick in the butt into action. And this one is from Jack Cheng, who is a writer, designer, and entrepreneur. And he says that there is someone sitting at your desk right now. And this person is really familiar. He or she looks a lot like you, but when you get a little bit closer, you see that there's some slight differences between you and this other person. This person seems to be exercising a little bit more, eat a little bit healthier, and have slightly better posture. And this one person is the better you. The better you is really another version of you, which is slightly better than you. He says it's the believable, it's a bit hard to write in this position, believable, possible. And you can think of it as this mechanized rabbit that's sit on the rail at a greyhound race. It always goes slightly faster than the dogs. And this is exactly how it is with you too. It's always slightly better. There's a version of you right now that has a little bit more potential and can step up to show himself or herself as a better version. And that's good, because the thrill of life is in the chase of getting a little bit better every single day and focusing on those moment-to-moment decisions that creates a better life. So that's the better you. Think about how you're going to apply it right now to your life. And then, bets, you need to create a ton of work, learn from your mistake, and to increase your chances of creating something extraordinary. And again, this is something that comes, this is a subject in almost all of the creative books I read, that those who have made true masterpieces have created a ton of work. And agency, exert your ability to take action which influences your destiny. Don't worry whether you made the right decision, simply go to work and make it the right decision. Fear, just like Jerry Seinfeld did, went from paralyzed by fear in his first performance to earning $2.7 billion in revenue in reruns alone. We also want to overcome our fears by exposing it to it again and again and again. And then, day one. Just like Jeff Bezos said at Amazon, it's always day one. It's always day one here at Amazon.com. We need to put ourselves in permanent beta and simply test what works and what doesn't. Well, that's a quick and passionate look at Maximize Your Potential by Jocelyn Glei. Think about the idea that jumped out at you, and I would love to hear how you're going to apply it to your life by writing in the comment section. A little PS there is that increases the chances that you'll remember to take action. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have another awesome day. See ya.